This is an article that came out in the New York Times, January 16th, 2018. Ex-CIA officer suspected of compromising Chinese informant is arrested. Ladies and gentlemen, this article is a eye-opener. China has been able to foil every single CIA operation in their country since 2010. America has not been able to carry out a decent operation there since 2010. They have managed to bust up every single operation there planned by the Americans. All right. China killed or imprisoned several CIA informants in the country starting in 2010. Unraveling the agency's source network is a devastating setback for the CIA. A former CIA officer suspected by the investigators of helping China dismantle United States spying operations and identifying informants has been arrested, the Justice Department said on Tuesday. The collapse of the spy network was one of the American government's worst intelligence failures in recent years. The arrest of the former officer, Jerry Chung Sheng Li, 53, capped an intense FBI inquiry that began around 2012. 2 years after the CIA began losing its informants in China, investigators confronted an enduring mystery. How did the names of so many CIA sources among the agency's most dearly held secrets ended up in Chinese hands? Some intelligence officials believe that a mole inside the CIA was exposing a roster of informants. Others thought that the Chinese government had hacked the CIA's covert communications used to talk to foreign sources of information. Still, other former intelligence officials have also argued that the spy network might have been crippled by a combination of both, as well as sloppy trade craft by agency officers in China. The counterintelligence investigation into how the Chinese managed to hunt down American agents was a source of friction between the CIA and FBI. I can tell you exactly what happened. And I'll use this scenario because it's one we can all relate to. You know how white people always study black people? China has studied white people. And they now know how to stay a step ahead of them. This is why they are not only beating them out in intelligence in China, they're also beating them out in Africa using the same tactics. See, they have studied white people enough to know what they're failing in when they deal with people around this world. So when China goes in, they do the opposite of what white people do, and they're winning. They're winning everywhere. And I might do this story. There is a story that came out not long ago. China is now in South America working out huge trade deals with countries in South America. They are truly becoming a huge global force They're not playing. They are going for the jugular when it comes down to America to take over world domination. Okay, Mr. Lee, who left the CIA in 2007, has been living in Hong Kong and working for a well known auction house. He was apprehended at Kennedy Airport in New York on Monday and charged in federal court in Northern Virginia with the unlawful retention of national defense information. He appeared in Brooklyn federal court on Tuesday and is being held there while awaiting transfer to Virginia. He does not have a lawyer, a Justice Department official said. The FBI apparently learned that Lee was traveling to the United States and scrambled to charge him on Saturday. And these are the documents that they got from federal court. It says Jerry Chung Sheng Lee, a former CIA officer, is suspected of identifying agency informants to the Chinese government, helping to cripple the United States intelligence operations in China. Reading the affidavit supporting charges against him. So this is the affidavit right here. Okay, I'm not going to be able to show it to you, but so let's just go back. Yeah, I'm not paying for no New York Times. Not happening. All right, but the document is right here. All right. Mr. Lee had previously traveled to the United States in 2012 to live with his family in Virginia. It was during that trip that FBI agents searched his luggage during hotel stays in Hawaii and Virginia and found two small books with handwritten notes that contained classified information. He later made his way back to Hong Kong after being questioned by FBI agents in 2013. It is unclear why Mr. Lee decided to risk arrest by coming to the United States this month. In the books, the agents found Mr. Lee had handwritten details about meetings between the CIA informants and undercover agents, as well as their real names and phone numbers, according to court papers. Prosecutors said that materials in the books reflected the same information contained in classified cables that Mr. Lee had written while at the agency. More than a dozen CIA informants were killed or imprisoned by the Chinese government. And see, they don't care. China looks at it like this: you're on our soil. We'll kill you and we'll jail you for being here. The extent to which the informant network was unraveled, reported last year by the New York Times, was a devastating setback for the CIA. Officials said the number of informants lost in China rivaled losses in the Soviet Union and Russia during the betrayals of both Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen, formerly of the CIA and FBI. They divulged intelligence operations to Moscow for years. The CIA declined to comment on Mr. Lee's arrest. According to court documents, Mr. Lee served in the United States Army from 1982 to 1986, and he joined the CIA in 1994 as a case officer. Former agency officials said He also served in China during his career. Those who knew him said he left the agency disgruntled after his career plateaued. Prosecutors said that both before and after he and his family moved back to the United States in 2012, Mr. Lee met with former CIA colleagues and other government employees. Remember, Chinese people in America are what they are the citizens, model citizens. Remember, they're model citizens. Look at what these model citizens are doing to them. They're easy targets, ladies and gentlemen. As you can clearly see, when it comes down to the Chinese, white people are easy as targets. Easy. As the agency began losing assets in China, it was not clear at first that the losses were systematic, but as the disappearances mounted, the American intelligence community eventually realized it had a major problem. The case had frustrated counterintelligence officials in the FBI and CIA, as they both sought to determine how the Chinese had disrupted agency operations in the country. The FBI suspected an insider had revealed sensitive information to the Chinese government, a theory not initially embraced by the CIA. Mr. Lee eventually became a prime suspect in the hunt for a traitor. I tell you what, if Mr. Lee is Chinese, he ain't selling out his own people. Former intelligence officials said that the FBI lured Lee back to the United States as part of a ruse, and he was interviewed 5 times in May and in June of 2013. The authorities said he never disclosed the 2 books described as an address book and a date book to investigators. Former officials said they were surprised that Mr. Lee came back to the United States in 2012, knowing he might be under FBI suspicion. Details about the FBI operation to lure him back were tightly held, but former intelligence officials said he returned with the promise of a possible contract with the CIA. Many former agency officers leave the agency and then return on contract. At some point after the FBI interviewed him, Mr. Lee returned to Hong Kong. Why the FBI did not arrest Mr. Lee after originally finding the classified material in his notebooks remain unclear. The FBI declined to comment. Officials are concerned that Mr. Lee's case and at least one other represent a troubling pattern of Chinese intelligence targeting former agency officials, an easy task that's trying to recruit current CIA operatives. In June, a former CIA officer was charged with providing classified information to China and making false statements. Prosecutors said that the former officer, Kevin Patrick Mallory, 60, of Leesburg, Virginia, had top-secret documents and incriminating messages on a communications device he bought back from Shanghai. In March, prosecutors announced the arrest of a longtime State Department employee, Candace Marie Claiborne. accused of lying to investigators about her contacts with Chinese officials. According to criminal complaints against Mrs. Claiborne, who pleaded not guilty, Chinese agents wired cash into her bank account and lavished her with thousands of dollars in gifts. So you have a lot of sellouts from within. That's what it's saying. A lot of sellouts from within. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Chinese are able to stay steps ahead of the U.S. when it comes down to intelligence. And they have been able to foil every single CIA operation in their country since 2010. They have rounded up every single informant of these operations, and they have either been killed or jailed in China. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice. Also, join me over on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. And if you can become a patron or make a donation to my channel, it would be deeply appreciated. Peace, family.